Hello, everybody. How are you all doing today? I'm your host, Big T, right here with you, and welcome to episode number 247 of the Beyond the Ring with Big T Wrestling Podcast. And we're here today for Tuesday, March 10th, 2020. And man, look at who I got. I got a real special guest here today for all you guys and for the wrestling community as a whole. Actually, I just gave this man a shout out on, I believe it was my Elimination Chamber review or Friday Night SmackDown review last week. Just gave this man a shout out, saying that he's one of the great guys in the internet wrestling community, and I'm so proud to have him here today. Guys, please welcome none other than Joe Cronin from the Joe Cronin Show on with us today. How you doing, Joe?
What's up? I'm doing really good today. I'm feeling pretty good. It was a nice day outside, so I was able to get that vitamin D that I really needed.
The weather's been, it was beautiful here the past 2 days. Now today it got cold.
Yeah, it's starting to get cold. It's going to drop down again over here, but this was it was a good 2 days of sample of spring.
Oh, absolutely. So, Joe, it's such a pleasure to have you on here. Thank you for being on the show. I feel very honored, to be honest with you. For those of you, as far as my audience, I'm sure everybody knows who Joe is, but for those of you that don't know who Joe is, he's one of the good guys in the community. I always watched him before I started a podcast. Actually,
that depends on who you talk to. I'm one of the good guys in the community.
Yeah, hey, same goes for me, Joe. You know what? Even with some of my opinions, I've had I've had a couple people come on. Like a couple real bad people in the chat wishing me death at times.
Oh yeah, that's when you know you've made it.
Yeah, I had this one guy to go out of his way. He actually ended up making like 30 troll accounts. And I was blocking like each one of them. And then the one he put in, he's like, "You deserve to die a slow, miserable death. Fuck you."
Yeah, I hear that about every day somewhere. So that's when you know you're good.
You got a tremendous following. You got, what, about 69,000 subs?
68,000, but I wish it was 69,000 because I'm a child.
You know what? I feel the same way. 69's a good number. I like that.
Yeah, I want 69. I want to hit 69 and then never leave that number. Maybe 69,666.
Ah, there you go. There you go. So let's talk about some wrestling. I was thinking, how I'm gonna attack this show. What we were gonna talk about. But let's start with this. Let's talk some wrestling. Let's do what we do best. And since we're in WrestleMania season, what better thing to talk about than the build to WrestleMania up until this point and the matches that they have put together so far? What are your thoughts? I know we both were not too happy with Monday Night Raw last night. That's a given.
Yeah, just the build-up just feels lackluster. I mean, I think it did last year and maybe the year before. It all kind of blends together now, but I think everyone's starting to become accustomed to this sort of, it doesn't matter about the build-up because it's probably going to suck. It's going to just be like, all right, here's the event. Are they going to have good matches or not? Let's see what happens because the build-up don't matter. It's kind of the opposite of the Attitude Era or even before that. It's like you used to be all about the build, then you get to the match, and sometimes the match wouldn't even be that good, but you were just fired up before the match, and then the entrances, you were fired up, and maybe the match was just okay, but then when someone won, you flipped out again, or the end of the story, you flipped out again. Now it's like you feel just mostly miserable and bored by any build-up or story, and then you're more interested in what's going to happen in the match. And if they have a good match, then that's all you're looking forward to. So it's bizarre. It's the opposite of what the Attitude Era ran on, which was all story and hype, and the wrestling was secondary. Now it feels like the wrestling's the most important thing, and the match that happens is the most important thing, because there's really not a story. And I don't know why. I think they think they're telling stories, but they're not really. It's not connecting with most of us.
You know what? It just feels so. Kenny Omega said it best. I think it was right when AEW was announced, or right before, when he said that WWE's creative and everything is just soulless. And it really is. It's soulless. There's no excitement there. There's no care there. There's no love. I mean, the only thing on this WrestleMania build that seems worthwhile so far is the Edge and Orton stuff, and the Undertaker and AJ Styles stuff is just picking up.
Yeah, it's going to be like I guess it's really going to be just Undertaker and Styles. I thought there would be teams. I didn't think they'd go one-on-one. I thought the Edge stuff would have been good. I said it last night on my review that if they went from they should have had Edge chasing Orton all night long in these different segments, and it could have led to exactly what happened. But that's how you go off the air, with Orton staring at Edge and Edge staring at Orton, him choking out MVP and then concertoing him or hitting him in the head or whatever it was. And then that's how it should have ended. So it would have built to that point where you felt like you got a complete story on Raw. But instead, they sort of just had Edge show up, and then he was looking for Orton, and then it was over.
Exactly. And then they end the show with this rivalry that has been going on since the day after Survivor Series. I mean, we're pushing 5 months of this just lousy Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins stuff.
Yeah, that stuff, that was really annoying. That was just death. Like, I was like, this is how it's ending? Like, are you serious? I felt like they should move Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins into like a kind of Rock and Stone Cold idea of a rivalry and get it going. Do some stuff outside the building, do something there. Get creative with it. Instead, it's just another big pile-on tag match and a stunner in the ring, and yeah, just really, really boring.
It is. It absolutely is. I mean, I'm just thinking of how WrestleMania's past used to be and how they built stuff and how they built it with care. One of the things that they need to stop, in my opinion, and I'm sure you probably share the same sentiments that I do, they need to stop worrying about getting everybody on the WrestleMania card. WrestleMania is an event where it should be the best of the best, and you got to work your ass off to get there. Instead of, it's like, oh, let's just get everybody on, and it's not right. I think that's one of the things dragging it down, too. They're trying to get everybody on the card, then they make it 8 hours. It don't need to be 8 hours.
Yeah, and I think I don't mind if they try to get everyone on the card, as long as they don't do it with matches that are like, just throw them in a Rumble. Like, give them a women's Rumble, give them a men's Rumble, and do it in the pre-show, and maybe have it for something for Monday Night Raw or something like that, and that's it. Instead of having a bunch of singles matches that don't matter, like you said, like if they really got to get them all on the card, put them in a men's Rumble and a women's Rumble, and that's it. But don't do like 7, or now there's like 11 matches. There's like 11 matches, and then the Rumble on top of it. It's like, man, have 8 matches to 7 to 8 to 9 matches on the main show, and then have the 2 Rumbles before, and maybe that would be a lot better instead of 15 matches.
Exactly. Too many. You know what? It's oversaturated. They oversaturated.
Yeah, it's you'll never remember it. It's too much stuff going on. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say though. When you go back to the old WrestleManias, like there was a lot of matches on WrestleMania. I feel like WrestleMania 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and even 6 maybe. They kind of had a lot of matches if I remember, but I don't even remember some of those. You don't remember them. You remember the 2 or 3 or 4 matches, and that's about it. Like I would say, it wasn't until WrestleMania. Maybe it wasn't until WrestleMania 8 that they slowed down on the amount of matches. I feel like.
Yeah, WrestleMania 8 was a big slowdown. It was also one of the shorter WrestleManias. I think that only ran about 2 hours and 45 minutes, if I remember correctly.
Whoa! I'll tell you, WrestleMania 8 is one of my favorite though. Like I love that WrestleMania. I say it all the time. That Shawn Michaels and Tito Santana opened the night. They had a good match. Jake the Snake and The Undertaker had a great match psychology-wise, and Bobby Heenan and Gorilla announced it really well. And Bret Hart and Roddy Piper had an amazing match with the blood and the bell and all that story, and their little interview before. And then Macho Man and Ric Flair had a great grudge type of match for the title, and Ric Flair is gonna put Miss Elizabeth's naked photo up for everybody to see.
Yep.
And then and even Sid and Hogan. I mean, even that was, as a kid, I liked it. I was, as a kid, wasn't a good match, but the beginning was really hyped, and then pretty much nothing happened, and then the Warrior came out to save Hogan, and that was exciting, but that was very Vince McMahon, that ending. It was so like the stuff you see nowadays, where, they had a match that didn't even matter, and then all to get to the Warrior coming back and showing up. But you know what? It had all that variety, so I really look to that WrestleMania as like one of my favorite, because a lot of the ones before that, when you go back and watch them now, 70% of the WrestleMania, you kind of just want to fast forward through it to get to the next point.
You really do. You really do. I mean, for me, man, my favorite WrestleManias, honestly, are probably a little bit typical, but like 17, 19. I definitely love WrestleMania 8. WrestleMania 3 was good with Hogan and Andre. You love a lot of them. You love a lot of them. But yeah, it's just the matches. The event, to find an event in full is the hard part. Oh, beginning to end,
Yeah.
this is great.
Yeah, it doesn't really happen much in WrestleMania. It seems like it's kind of amazing how that is. Some things don't age well or age the same as the other things. Like it's a lot of the stuff doesn't. You go back and watch it, and you're like, I see some of the younger people watching it now, and they're like, that stunk. Like the Attitude Era sucked. Like because they're going in and they're watching the matches. They're going and being like, okay, let me watch The Rock. Let me watch The Rock versus Stone Cold at WrestleMania 15, and they watch it and they kind of go, that wasn't even that good. Like because the kids nowadays, they'll see like the punching, the kicking, the stuff outside the ring, and then eventually, there's the stunner and the crowd goes crazy, and that's fun, but they don't get it because they didn't watch the build up. They weren't hyped for Stone Cold every Monday and The Rock, and so just watching the match, they're like, this is like lame. Why aren't they doing other moves and doing better stuff? Like, so they don't, it just doesn't translate to a lot of people nowadays.
That's true. Because the wrestling as a whole has changed.
Yeah, it's the same thing as Andre and Hogan. If you go back, when I was younger, I didn't really appreciate that as much. I watched it and was like, okay, and then Hogan slammed him and that was cool. But pretty much everything else, I was like, what is this? But it wasn't until I was like 10 or 11 or 12 that I started being like, wow, that was pretty cool. Or a little bit older even. But I would, but you could show someone like Ricky Steamboat and Macho Man, and they'd be like, oh yeah, that match was cool. But they don't react to the Hogan and Andre thing. But if you understood the situation and the psychology of that, it was amazing.
You're right. Absolutely. I agree 100%. Talking about WrestleMania and thinking about all these old times, Joe, all these old times that were good, and those were all the times when I was growing up. When I was growing up, and I started going to WrestleMania live in person back when, these times were already gone. I started going at WrestleMania 27, and I've been to every WrestleMania since except 34, and I'm trying to put some plans together for 36, to see if I could get down there. But I love going to WrestleMania live. Like, I gotta tell you, going live, you get that adrenaline rush still. But it's like then when you watch it back on TV, you realize it wasn't as good as it was live.
Yeah, live you get so much more hyped. Even when I went to SmackDown not that long ago, a couple months back or whatever it was, I think it was like it might have been a year or two now. Actually, now that I think about it, I remember I was drinking, and I was having a really good time, and yeah, I was having a great time because live it's just different. You have more fun, and even though it's not the greatest, you're still live, and especially if you're close. If you're close to the action like I was, it was really fun, screaming and yelling at things. But watching at home is just no fun anymore for the most part, as far as WWE goes to me.
Well, you know what's a big killer with the WWE shows as well? It's the commercials. Like, even if they're having a decent match, which is far and in between. But if they're having a decent match, you're getting into it, and then boom, they swipe the rug out from underneath you with a commercial.
Yeah, it's awkward. I mean, they've always had commercials, but I feel like back in the day, I think I was watching old Raws, and I figured out that the commercial breaks were just way better placed. Like, they placed them in such a good spot. Like, when we come up next, coming up next is this or that. They didn't really take breaks in the middle of matches.
Exactly. They just kept going. They kept going.
I'd rather them, come back from before a match starts, go to commercial. When the match is over, maybe go to commercial, and maybe come back and go to a little promo thing and go back to another commercial rather than a commercial happening once or twice in a match. That really disrupts the flow of the match, like really bad, and it's annoying.
It does. When you're live, you really don't think about it because you're live and you're in it and you're thinking, this was a pretty decent match. And then you go home and so you DVR it and then you watch it back and you're like, man, these commercials killed it.
Yeah, murdered the match. Yeah, absolutely. Because you're getting into it. Then, now you're breaking it up. And you can't have commercials in a wrestling match. It would be it's like taking a commercial during a hockey game or a football, anything, like during the middle of play. Like, you come back and you miss 3 minutes and they're like, while you were away, this guy got checked into the boards and that. You completely, it disrupts the flow of a game. It's almost, I think the best example is hockey. Maybe basketball too, basketball and hockey, because they're so back and forth. And you can see how a basketball team can turn it on all of a sudden and hit three-pointers in 45 seconds. And, you come back from a commercial and somebody's down by 8 and they go, while we're on commercial, the Nuggets caught fire and they scored 3. It's like, but you wouldn't. And then if the other team comes back to the way they were, you never noticed that swing. It's really impactful, or like a movie or anything. Nothing else. I don't think anything. I mean, a movie is interrupted, but when a movie gets interrupted or a TV show, they come back from the same point they were at. So you didn't miss a part of the story. Wrestling is all about the storytelling in the ring, and you're literally taking a break from that and missing a chunk of the story.
And remember when Vince McMahon tried to put a stop to it, it actually made things worse when he had 2 out of 3 fall matches constantly.
Oh, yeah, that was wicked annoying. I remember that was really annoying. That made it, I mean, I'm down for bringing back some 2 out of 3 falls matches if you'd like here or there.
Mm-hmm.
But oh my God, doing it on purpose so that you could have commercial breaks it's the same distraction, but it's even more of a distraction. I feel like.
And not only were they just having one a show, they were having 2 and 3 per show.
Yeah, it's like, here comes another 2 out of 3 falls match. Here comes another 2 out of 3 falls match. It was very bizarre. It's almost hard to believe that happened. I remember thinking that at the time. We were saying that at the time too. Like, it's hard to believe that they did that. To be honest, it's kind of amazing. I give them credit for trying something, but the answer is the place the commercials at different times. You can still have the same amount, just don't place them in the middle of matches.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I want to ask you about something because, you know, of course I heard about it on your show and all this, and I listened to you play this recording. You actually used it as one of your introductions of your show, the one with Jim Cornette. What was the whole deal with Jim Cornette? It's like he just went off and started that whole rant, or what was going on there? If you could talk about it. And I'm like, man, why is Jim Cornette ripping into Joe?
Yeah, there's a lot of what that was. It's weird. I met him one time with Leah, and he was cool. I did a podcast with him and Kenny Bolin on my channel and went up on Kenny's podcast, and he was cool then too. And then what happened was, you know, Kenny Bolin began to all of a sudden decided he hated me. And, you know, he said a bunch of stuff about me to, you know, Jim, and he ranted about me and wasn't happy or whatever. And then I think Jim kind of heard some of that. And then it was probably like months later that I saw that Jim and Santino Marella, they got in a fight. Or like an argument, almost a fight.
I remember that.
Yeah, and so I made a video on it, and then I went on Twitter and I was being like kind of obnoxious. And I was saying like to Jim, I was like, to Santino and to Jim, I was like, hey guys, come on my show and hash it out. You know, we'll figure it out on the show. And, you know, I'm kind of figuring that, you know, no one's going to respond to this. Now, Santino actually does. He DMs me and says, hey, when's the show? And then he doesn't respond back. But then, you know, so then I tweeted them again. I ended up tweeting them like 3 times. And then I started getting silly, joking around, like putting dollar signs on the tweet and being like, hey, come on, I'll drop the money for you or whatever. And, you know, I didn't really know if I would really do that, but if they both agreed to come on, you know, maybe I would have. Maybe I would have tried to give them like $300, $500, $300. You know, Jim Cornette's worth more than that probably, but, you know, whatever. I was just joking around. I figured it wouldn't really happen, but it was only 3 tweets, and 3 tweets was enough to piss off Cornette. And at that point, not only did he block me, but he then went on the rant about me. And then when he went on a rant about me on his show, and then of course everybody told me about it. So then I went and listened to it, and I went, what the hell? And then, you know, I told everybody about it, and then everybody went and attacked Jim. So then he went off on a mega rant about me a second time. So, yeah, he blocked me for that reason. Knowing Jim better than I knew him, I didn't really know him that well then. I listened to him, and I was entertained by him. But I can see why he blocked me, because if he finds somebody annoying or stupid, he blocks people. And the way I was tweeting him was, you know, I only tweeted him 3 times. It's not like I tweeted him all day long or, you know, any more than that. It was 3 times, and that was enough for him. So, you know, I get it. I think Kenny Bolin told him that I was a Republican or something, too, which I'm not, but he told him that, and so then he probably hated me for that reason, too, or something. I don't know.
You never know. You never know. I mean, it's possible.
He goes on rants about, like, if you're a Republican, don't unfollow me now, or don't even listen. Shut the fuck up. I'll block you.
He actually went on about that on my show too, because I interviewed Kenny Bolin. It was back in April of 2018.
Okay, yeah, so that was after all that. So yeah, I'd already pissed them all off by then.
Yeah, and he went on the same thing, you know, talking about the whole politics and stuff, and yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about because I've interviewed him before, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of bizarre. I mean, I get it because, you know, you get mad at, you know, decisions and things going on, but yeah, he totally was like, fucking don't listen to me. And I don't know, I think Bolin, I don't know, Bolin, it's weird because I have a lot of people that hate me, and the ones that hate me who are, like, conservative Republicans, they call me, like, oh, he's a stupid, psycho, liberal, like, socialist asshole. And then the other people that don't like me call me Trump supporters. So it's very weird. Like, it's like whoever doesn't like me, whatever party they're with, they seem to eventually, one of the shots they'll take at me is that I'm part of the other group. It's very bizarre when I'm more of an independent but it's weird, like, because I've heard it from different people who don't like me. Will say that I'm this either hardcore Trump fan or that I'm a stupid like liberal globalist type, and it's very weird. I'm like, well, how can I be one? How can I be literally the opposite thing? And I've heard people ranting about me at different times, at the same time on different shows about it, and it's like, wow, you guys should listen to each other because it would be hilarious.
It's so weird that people do that, you know?
I think it's because of how like I'm sort of balanced in the middle, and I go to this. Some things I'm leaning one way, and some things I'm the other way, and so it confuses people. So depending on where they heard me, they just assume like, okay, well, you're like this, so that's it.
And I'm looking here in the chat. Want to say hello to everybody in the chat. Thank you guys for showing up. I see we got quite a bit of action in here. How's everybody doing today? We're sitting here talking with Joe Cronin, and it's awesome to have him here. It really is. Joe,
I think I tweeted it out. Hey, what's up? It's awesome to be here.
Hey, and thanks for tweeting it out too. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep. What little Twitter I have left. At one point, I had 36,000 Twitter followers. It was crazy.
Yeah, what's the whole deal with Twitter banning you all the time? I know you talked about it, and that's really the reason why they banned you from Twitter, because you said, what was it, that MTV doesn't like white people?
Yeah, I tweeted below the video that was like the one that was like, "Hey, dear white guys" or something, and so I said MTV hates white people. And then I had a report from Twitter saying that my tweet was in violation of their terms of service. And after evaluating my Twitter, I was suspended. And I said, okay, how long am I suspended for? And then I found out that it's terminated, like indefinitely suspended, like it's gone, that's it. And then I was like, okay, I guess I'll make a new one. So I made a new one, and then it was like a month, like a little while later, I got that suspended, and they said it was suspended because for trying to circumvent the Twitter rules and create a new account. And then I said, what the hell? I can never have a Twitter account again? Ever? And so I had gotten 10,000 people to follow me back on the new Twitter account, and that was now gone. And so I made another one with a different version of my name, and that was banned within 2 weeks.
Wow.
And after a little while, I realized that I still had my corrupted Twitter account. And so I logged into that, but I was worried that logging in would trigger the problem again, and it didn't. So only because it was a previous account that somehow it I don't know, it got past that security measure or whatever. So and I operated it behind a VPN so that they couldn't see my locations and things like that. So yeah, so apparently I'm literally banned for life from Twitter for saying MTV hates white people, which is ridiculous. Because I tweeted out the other day that the girl who said that we should shoot Donald Trump's children,
yeah,
she's still she's on Twitter and was never suspended.
Oh.
So you can say that you want to shoot somebody's children, but if you say MTV hates white people, you'll be banned for life, apparently.
See, now that's a huge problem here because, yeah, like you said, you've seen that woman put that, and then I've seen so many people put so much worse on Twitter, and all these people still have accounts. It's unbelievable.
It's bizarre. Yeah, I don't know I don't know. I think, again, maybe they thought I was like a right-wing person because I made fun of the video saying, like, oh, you hate white people. You know what I mean? But it was not even that. It was just a joke. Like, I thought the video was kind of mean, so I was like, oh, you hate white people. And, like, then it's not even that serious of a thing. I'm not even a political activist or a political person or, anything like that. And I got banned. So it's very bizarre.
It is very bizarre. Very, very bizarre. I mean, like me, and I'm sure all of your viewers, we know your sense of humor. We just know how it is. And I'm thinking of so many funny things in the show, that you've said and rants that you've gone on. We actually talked about this off the air. And I want to talk about this on the air because I know I've called into your show, a few times over the years and we have talked. But this was just hilarious. It was the night when CM Punk debuted on WWE Backstage. You did a live stream talking to everybody, about what happened and so on and so forth. And I called in and, we talked about CM Punk a little bit. And then I asked you, did you hear about Jimmy Corderas saying what he said about the Kenny Omega John Moxley match in Full Gear? And then you said you didn't hear about that yet. I believe it was, or you did hear about it? I don't know. I can't remember if you did or didn't.
Yeah.
But,
I don't remember, but I couldn't remember. I just remember I was really mad because, like, all the stuff that's been terrible in wrestling, and that was the thing that, somebody was complaining about, it was ridiculous to me. I was like, man, stuff sucks so bad everywhere that you're complaining about this? Like, this is bizarre. Like, what? He was like, oh, it's so brutal, and it wasn't even that bad at all. It was nowhere near that bad.
No, not at all. And you just came up with all these different ways on your rant once I sent you the tweet with the video, and you were like, well, I'll tell you why I think Jimmy Corderas is a fucking idiot. And then you were given reason 1, reason 2, and reason 1, he's a Tennessee Titans fan because he had the Titans t-shirt on and all that crap. And that's the the last reason, I think it was reason 4 or 5 or something, when you put it on there, you're like, it's because he's balding, and he's been balding for a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I can't wait to find the rant and play that, because that's going to be funny, because I was pissed.
Oh, I can tell you were enraged. Once you watched that video, I could just tell as soon as it was over, the way you were just sitting there with your demeanor, you were real quiet, and then you're like, wow, I'm sorry to say this, but Jimmy Corderas is a fucking idiot. And then it just went on from that point. It was great. It was great. I know exactly which video that is. I'll look at the time spots and I'll send it to you, and I'll send it from the time when you discover my message in chat, like, hey, I sent you the Jimmy Corderas video, because then you're like, hey, all right, you sent it to me, all right, let's go check it out. And then it just went downhill from there once you played it.
Oh my God, I can't wait to see it, because I'm gonna cut it for sure, because it was funny.
Oh, great stuff. And that's another thing that I would like to talk about. When I brought up Jimmy Corderas wearing the Tennessee Titans t-shirt, I'm actually a big football fan, and one of the times that I always tune into your show besides the wrestling is when you do the New England Patriots commentary. When you talk about what happened on the games and stuff like that, because believe it or not, I'm a huge New England Patriots fan. They're my team.
Oh, wow, I've heard that from a lot of people throughout the country. I don't know if it's why is it? Because some people think it's fair weather fan. Some people think it's because a lot of times it's you don't have a team yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you my exact reason. What happened was, back in the 90s when I was a kid, Art Modell, who used to own the Cleveland Browns, sold the Cleveland Browns, moved it to Baltimore or whatever. And then we didn't have a team in Cleveland. And, everybody in Cleveland for some reason was jumping on the Green Bay Packers bandwagon. Everybody here in Cleveland was going for the Green Bay Packers once the Browns were out of town. And for me, it was different. I did not jump to the Green Bay Packers. I jumped to the New England Patriots. And I remember watching the Super Bowl in '96 when they played the Packers. And then, I just kept watching, from that point on. And then when Brady took over in 2000 or 2001, and he won the Super Bowl, and everything started. I'm like, man, this team is just great, and everything, the tragedy that happened with 9/11, and you got a patriotic team like the Patriots, which at that point I've been following them for 4 years at that point. And they pull it off, and they got this great young quarterback and Tom Brady. I'm like, man, this is gonna be my team for good.
So you started watching basically when I kind of did, because I loosely watched the Patriots in like 94 and 95, but not really. It wasn't until that 96 Super Bowl that I paid a lot of attention. I was kind of watching more games that year and not really interested. And then when they made it to the Super Bowl, I was like, oh, yeah, I love football now. And I watched probably every Patriots game from that Super Bowl and on. So, yeah, that's really the same year that I became a football, before that, I really just watched football randomly. Like, I'd probably seen more Joe Montana games than I'd seen Patriots games, although I had seen, probably 15 Patriots games from 1984 to, being a baby. I don't know what I saw in 84, but, to 1996, I'd only seen probably 15 Patriots games, and I'd probably only seen 20 football games besides that, so not a lot. So we really started watching at the same time. And, yeah, I can remember when I saw Bledsoe got injured, I threw my controller down and said, that's it. I'm done. I'm done with football. Not watching. I'm done. Who the hell is Brady? This is I had a Bledsoe jersey on and everything, and or Curtis Martin, I think it might have been, but either way, it was yeah. So it was the same type of thing. You liked them when they weren't good, so that that's good, because that's why you started liking them. Sometimes a big loss is what gets you invested in a team. Like when you decide to watch a team and then you see either like an injustice or a bad loss, for some reason that makes you more hyped to see them win, and then maybe you see them win, or then maybe you spend 80-something years and they don't win. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, but before I go on, I'm looking here. Let's see. Casey is Raw. What's up? Let's see. They're saying the audio's a little bit low. Let me go on the side here and tweak this up a little bit. I got it almost all the way up, but I'll turn it all the way up now.
Yeah, I'm listening to it now. It sounds all right. I can hear everything at least, but
All right, I just turned it up the rest of the way. It's only a little bit from the top in OBS. I turned it up the rest of the way. I got you coming through a Bluetooth speaker into a Rode NT USB podcaster mic, so that's the audio setup I'm using.
Well, maybe Ryback will call up and tell you to go fuck yourself.
Yeah, you know what? Now that you brought that up, we'll get back to football in just a bit. But yeah, with Ryback, I've heard so many things. With you talking about Ryback and how he wants you to die in a bed of spikes and all this, and I'm like, what the fuck, man?
I'll put your fucking ass in a pit of spikes and I'll murder you. How about that? Have you finished? I will finish it. I will finish what God should have done to you. I will stuff your cerebral palsy up your ass, and I will fuck you up.
No, yeah, it was a really complicated thing, what happened with Ryback. I mean, it's so complicated. It was like JB was my producer at the time, and, he got back to me like, oh, Ryback wants like $2,000, or wants like thousands of dollars, and at that point I went on Twitter and stuff, and I started making jokes like, yeah, we'll get Ryback on the show for 1 million chocolate bars, or for $10 million in gold, and I would tweet these different things every day about it, because people really wouldn't shut up about asking me to get them on my show, and so I became angry about it. So then I started tweeting out like a dickhead, sort of like, oh yeah, Ryback will be on the show if we give him 3 virgins. And then one day I just tweeted out, Ryback will be on the show. We're going to need about $2,000. And of all the tweets that I sent out, of all the obvious joke tweets that I sent out about it, that's the one that somebody sent to him, and then he flipped out about, and he made a video. It's like, it's sad when people do this and lie about you, because I've never told anybody that I want $2,000 to be on their show. I've never said that. I've never done that. I don't even know who this fucking guy is. Like, I don't know what's going on. And so, like, first of all, we had been emailing his guy because he had a producer too, and it was Pat Buck. And but now we've come to find out that Pat Buck was stealing money from him and doing all kinds of weird things. And that's according to Ryback. He just said this recently, and he hates Pat Buck, and he said this stuff about Pat Buck, and but from at that point he became furious with me, and he blocked me and everything. And I tried to reach out to him to say, hey, Ryback, it's not like that. I'm not going around telling everybody, that you want $2,000 to be on my show. I was a joke tweet. Go look at the other tweets I sent out about you wanting all the chocolate cake in Germany and stuff. I was like, it's clearly a joke, dude. Like, obviously, I tried to get you on my show and it wasn't going to happen, so I made a joke about it. I was like, I'll apologize, or I'll come on, or like whatever you want to do. And he just went nuts. And so because he blocked me everywhere, he then tweeted out like I was a piece of shit or something. So then there was a guy I knew at the time, this guy Ken, and this guy Ken had been trying to get on my show in 2016. And in 2016, I was going on a rant about Susan B. Komen, the cancer people.
Yep.
And basically the cancer people, they don't really help the breast cancer people. They just spread awareness. They don't actually help people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I went on a rant about Susan B. Komen, the same rant as CM Punk and many other people have gone on about Susan B. Komen. Like, hey, why don't you actually make money for cancer patients and help them? Instead, you don't help them. And so this guy left a comment on my video, and he was like, you're a piece of shit, like, and we all know, like, how, you're a piece of scumbag or whatever, and, my wife had cancer, and Susan Coleman helped her, like, really bad or whatever. But, he was just making that up to say that. Like, his wife really had cancer, but he was saying that Susan B. Coleman helped them, and she didn't. And because I asked his wife recently about that. I was like, did they really help you? And she's like, no. And I'm like, yeah. He was just trying to shit on me. Yeah. So, but this guy was good at voices and a funny guy, but I didn't want to be friends with him because he was, like, shitting on me. And I was like, this is weird. And he was doing it because I never got back to him about being on my show. But then the whole Ryback thing happened, and, he had been kind of reaching out again and being kind of cool again with me. And he did this impression of Ryback one day. He called the show and did this Ryback impression. I'd been doing a Ryback impression, the one that I do, you want to fuck around with me, I'll fuck you up. But he did it, and at the time, I think he did it a lot better at the time. He was killing it, and he called the show as Ryback. And, we did that for like 20 minutes. And then Ryback heard the impression of him. Or somebody sent it to him or whatever the case is. And then he really got pissed apparently, but I didn't know that. So at WrestleCon, I walked up to Ryback. I saw him at the tables, and I said, well, I'm going to go up and say, just talk to Ryback and see if I can apologize or figure out what's going on. And JD was with me, JD from New York, and he decided to record it. And I didn't tell him to record it. He recorded it, put it on his own vlog.
Oh.
Tons of people to this day still write to me like, oh, you know what you were doing. You had him record it and all this other stuff. And I'm like, dude, well, if I didn't have him record it, he recorded it on his own. It's on his channel. It's his video. It's not my video. It's his video. So it's funny. People were blaming me that I wanted it recorded. And I'm like, well, no, I didn't. I just wanted to say sorry to Ryback. And JD was like, I better record. And so he did. And he put it on his channel. And it's JD's video. So it's not even mine. I didn't care. I literally just wanted to try to square things away with Ryback. So I walked up to him and I'm like, hey, and he's like, hey buddy, what's up? And then I'm like, hey, I'm Joe Cronin. And then the minute I said I'm Joe Cronin to Ryback, he was like,
Oh.
He really went, oh. If you watch it, he goes, oh. And I tried to explain what was going on, but I couldn't quite focus my thoughts. And I kept saying, I'm sorry about my producer, because at the time, basically JB did have a miscommunication with him a little bit, and his guy. And so I just said, our producers must have. It was funny too, because Colt Cabana was there, and Colt Cabana blamed my producer for something too.
Wow.
And I said, Colt Cabana, I said, hey, why don't we still haven't got you on the show? And he goes, well, you got to get a producer that's not a shithead. And I was like, oh my God. And I don't know why, because I talked to JB, and JB goes, dude, Colt Cabana just basically stopped talking to us. And so he was mad. I don't know, maybe JB was jerking people off or something, but Colt Cabana was mad at my producer, and he actually said it. He goes, listen, you seem like a good guy, but the guy that was emailing me about you or whatever was a piece of shit, and I fucking couldn't stand it. And I was like, really? I was like, so, but anyway, that's a separate thing. Colt Cabana was pissed, but I'm talking to Ryback, and so Ryback said, whatever, man, okay, cool, well, listen, just don't be a piece of shit, and don't be an asshole, and all these things. And I'm like, all right. And then what happened was, the next day on his podcast, he basically describes the whole thing, but he makes me look really bad, and then he goes, I was seeing red, and I hope he dies in a pit of spikes, and all these things. And I'm like, wow. I was like, so you got mad at me and said all this stuff about me to be positive and to be good, but the day after I came up to you as a scrawny 205-pound wrestling podcaster kid, and I came up to Ryback and I say, sorry, I fucked up. I hope you can forgive me, and I want you to know it's just I do a comedy show, and that's why, whatever. And he buries me the next day on his thing, and I'm like, dude, you're a piece of shit. So and to this day, if you mention me, he gets furious. And the other day, somebody was trolling him one day a year ago or something, and he was like, if he ever fucking tries to upload what I do or makes fun of my do, I will just fuck him up. I got lawyers. I don't. It's just weird. So I don't know. That's Ryback, and he's bizarre. I don't know.
Well, now he's got his Ryback TV channel where he's doing all kinds of shit all the time now.
Yeah, I mean, he was doing it then. He was doing it a couple of years ago, and his channel got no views. He finally he became friends with a friend of mine called the Sneaker Addict, and the Sneaker Addict, who's a listener of the show, went to Ryback and redid his whole channel for him and operates his channel for him.
Wow.
And yeah, he's the one who got Ryback's channel working good. And I yelled at him too. I said, Ryback's kind of a shithead, man. You helped out a shithead. And he's like, oh no, he pays me a lot and everything. So anyway, yeah, I got a little beef with Ryback, but there's never any beef that's, you know what I mean, that's ever too bad to never squash. You know what I mean? I like Ryback. I think it's funny. I wish he's just so serious. He's so super serious that, if he understood the real story of what was going on, you know what I mean? It's I don't think he would really be mad. But I think my jokes after the fact is all he hears or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, for some reason, he's just zoned in on the jokes or something, he's not looking beyond that.
Yeah, he doesn't. And I tried telling him I'm just doing comedy like anything else, and then he does it too on his show. Dude, he shits on people and he talks about stuff and makes fun of it like you wouldn't believe. And I'm like, do you realize you're doing the same thing that I'm doing? You should understand what I'm doing. In fact, if anything, I think me and Ryback would have a badass podcast if we did it together. If we did a podcast together, I think we could fucking kill.
Yeah.
And I've actually reached out to him a million times to try to get him to do a podcast with me. And, it's obviously met with deaf ears, but it's, I don't know. I think I think he's missing out, and obviously I'm missing out, but I think he's missing out too. I think it's, I'd like to, I don't know, I've tried to reconcile it a bunch, but, he has said before, oh, that guy says he's sorry one minute, then he shits on me the next. And he is right about that. But the problem is I've only really spoken to him one time in my life, and that was at WrestleCon. So, we've never, he's never answered for the things. And honestly, his buddy Pat Buck was stealing everything and lying about everything. So the whole miscommunication starts with his buddy Pat Buck. It was his producer that fucked the whole thing up.
Wow. That's something else, man.
Yeah. Wild.
And the funny thing is, I actually met you down at that WrestleCon in 2017 in Orlando. I met you down there.
It was at the con, right?
Yep. It was
because it wasn't at the Internet Darlings. It was at the actual WrestleCon.
Yes. Yep.
But you didn't talk to me for long though. It was just kind of like you were like, "Oh, hey, Joe," and I was like, "Hey," and it was like a second.
Yeah, it was a quick meet and greet. Well, because when I meet people, in public, when I meet wrestlers, or even when I meet people like you that's a podcaster and you're trying to enjoy your trip, I try not to keep people.
Yeah. I don't remember what I was doing. We were walking around, or either we were at the podcast booth or we were walking around. It was probably one of those, or we were with the Hardys. It was got to be one of those three things.
I think it was just when you got done with the Hardys and then you were walking around, and then,
right.
then I ran into you.
I mean, it was really cool because that was the only thing that did stink was that we must have been stopped about 60 times, like while during the day there, like while walking around, somebody, would stop us or whatever. And so like, I didn't quite remember everybody because there were so many stopping high, which is fine because that was cool. Actually, that was the funnest part because while we were bored, while we were roaming around waiting for the next thing that we were going to do or next person we were going to meet or whatever the case is, we were kind of just sitting there like, what are we going to do? But every time that happened, somebody would stop us. And whether it was for a minute or 5 minutes or whatever. And that really, it made us feel, because we didn't get a booth. We didn't have a table. So it made us kind of feel like we were there to work for the show that we had, our shows. But at the same time, it felt like we were a part of it. So that was kind of cool. So I really liked it because it was crazy to meet people to listen to the show, but then also meet wrestlers that you grew up loving or like people that you wanted to interview. And then people were interviewing us and we were doing a podcast and it was crazy, but I like that stuff.
Oh, it's fun. It's really fun. Podcasting has, it's a great thing. It's really helped me out, and gotten me along and gotten me to meet some great people and gotten me to talk to a lot of great people over the years, yourself included. And it's just, it's a wonderful outlet.
Yeah, no, it helps that anybody can do it. You know what I mean? And I mean, I did it for years as just a fun little hobby. I don't know who's going to hear this, but back in the day, a lot of people did this stuff back in the day when you think about it. Like, I used to just record on a tape recorder, and nobody ever heard those recordings, but I did it. And with the way the internet is now you can do that. It used to be that you did that, and then you could put it up on your website, but nobody ever visited your website. And, then with the advent of these social media sites and, eventually YouTube, now it's like, it became, well, now I can not only say something on my website, but I can now put it on YouTube. And I'm lucky that I figured out YouTube a long time ago was the way to reach everybody. And I think that it took years for a lot of people to get their stuff on YouTube. Even podcasters or people that were doing other things, they didn't put their stuff on YouTube because they thought, I don't know, they just didn't see it. And I'm like, well, the most people are on YouTube, so that's your biggest potential reach. There's nothing out there that can reach people like YouTube. Yes, podcasting, number 2, but YouTube, especially if you put up specific topics and videos, people will find you, and it's kind of amazing.
It's like the biggest thing going, people go on YouTube, probably billions every day go on YouTube, and they're watching videos and searching things up, and it's just it's a great thing. I love it.
Yeah. really cool. It's amazing. It's went from hobby to what it is, and yeah, I mean the support from the people. I just heard a guy on Joe Rogan's podcast who has kind of the same formula that I have, and I was like, wow, that guy's doing a lot what I'm doing. It's very interesting. Yeah, and I wouldn't have what I have now if I didn't do this, and I'd make this move. So it's pretty good, and I'm not very good at regular jobs for too long. I last about a year to 3 years, and then I seem to get either something happens, the company goes under, or something or other. But at least this, I think I know what I'm doing. I think now, so I'm pretty lucky to have the listeners and the supporters. Without those people, I wouldn't be doing it. So it's kind of crazy.
Well, you've been at it now for what, 12 years?
I mean, I've probably been doing a show even for myself on tape since like 1990. But yeah, but since YouTube, I got on YouTube in 2007, and I was just uploading like goofy comedy videos then, trying to be silly and make people laugh and make people online go, "What the hell is this?" Like guy has chocolate syrup sex with teddy bear, and the video would start and there'd be a teddy bear on the camera, and then I would show up covered in chocolate and start rubbing chocolate all over the bear and myself, and I'd be like, "Yeah, teddy bear," and then look at the camera all weird, and then the video would end, and people would be like, "What the hell is teddy bear sex?" And it's weird because that whole time I was listening to sports talk, and I liked radio, and I liked that sort of thing, but I never thought about, oh, this could be, I could do that. And what happened was there was a guy called Losing Hope Channel, and all his videos were about, killing himself, but it was like comedy. So like,
yeah,
every video, it was kind of like, what was the referee in WWE? He had that series where he killed himself every episode or died.
Tim White.
Yeah, it was just like that, but it was, every video was in black and white, and it was called Losing All Hope Channel. And I thought to myself, I'm like, oh my God, this guy has like his own network and series and seasons. I could do that. And that's when I started making the comedy videos, thinking like, I would basically have this channel of random like insanity. And then after a while, I realized that really wasn't working. It was a little too weird for people, and they didn't quite get it. I wasn't good enough for that. And that's when I thought, well, I started doing streams on with Troy, my friend, on this other website, and we were streaming and doing started doing like live streams. And then I was like, I could make my own like radio show, and so then I tried to do that. And then after a while, YouTube launched the live feature and the Google Hangouts feature, and I said, holy shit, I could try to do this radio style show on YouTube. And then I did that, and it was random, so nobody knew it, where to find it and what I was doing. And then I got the idea to pick a topic, and I decided to do hockey and wrestling. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do only hockey and wrestling. And it was at that point where I got success, because it made sense. Every video was about wrestling or hockey. So then I began building a community of, only 1,000 people, but I was amazed that I got that 1,000 people. That seemed like 1 million to me at the time, and it was crazy. And then it built up, and yeah, here we are now. And it's a long journey here.
It is.
A lot of people are like, oh, you suck. You just have all the subs and all these, whatever. You just sit there, and it's like, wow, you don't realize how many failures I had to get here.
Yeah, nobody realizes it unless, they're content creator themselves and they're in your shoes.
Yeah, you go through years of it. You may have a very tiny audience for years until you... but you got to change something, too. You also got to change it up, try something new. By the way, I see you in this picture with the AEW picture. What did you get there? Like a backstage pass or something?
I actually went to the show in Cleveland, Ohio, because that's my hometown, when they had the Dynamite over there, and I had third row ringside seats, And this picture was actually taken after the show went off the air when I was waiting for my wheelchair escort to come and take me back, to the car.
Oh, cool. All right. Yeah, they're pretty cool usually, like with that stuff too.
Yes, so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna stand up over here, and I'm gonna take this photo with the ring in the backdrop, and I'm like, that'll be a good shot to use.
Yeah, no, it was a really good one. It was. I was super bummed when I got to go there and they didn't have the press conference. I was like, oh man. I was like, I actually get this. I got this press pass and I can't even. There's no press conference.
Yeah, I think they only have the press conferences after the pay-per-views, right?
Yeah. They done one. They did one after the first AEW TNT show.
Okay.
So the second week they weren't sure. They were thinking about doing another one the next week, and they ended up, I don't know why, but they ended up canceling it, and then they decided not to do them anymore. Probably, I think it's because they didn't get a lot of press. To be honest, I think that's the reason, because I was there with all the press, and there was only one other guy there. So it was me and one other guy. So nobody else was there. So I think maybe that's why they canceled it and decided not to have one. But I think they also decided not to do one anyway. I think Tony Khan was like, yeah, we don't want to do that. He decided, like, let's not do that after every show. It's kind of dumb. And I think he was right, because then, like, it was like they were breaking kayfabe every press conference. So it was kind of like weird.
Yeah.
So I think they made the right call, but it was cool anyway that they gave me the entrance, and, that I was able to have access to the building, and, all that stuff that they did. It was really cool. And Cody was cool. And, it was really cool. It was fun. I've actually never, well, I don't remember if I'd ever been to that arena in Boston to see any wrestling. Maybe back in the day, but I don't think so. So it was really cool how everything was very close and stuff like that. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool that we have this other company to watch now on a kind of a big stage like they are.
It's been a great alternative so far.
Yeah, really happy about it, and that they're cool and nice, and the Cody and Brandy, they're pretty open about stuff, so that's cool to have that access, and that they're interested and they're listening to stuff, and they're coming up with good ideas, and they're gonna make mistakes, but and I'm gonna rant on it even so. Some people are like, "What are you doing?" They just came on your show, you're shitting on something, and I'm like, I don't know any other way to do it. I don't know, like, if they ban me, whatever, I guess, because no one else is paying my bills. You know what I mean? I'm paying my own. No one else is paying my bills. No one, WWE, AEW, no one's paying my bills. If I lose out on a ticket here or there when they come to town, it's not worth losing the credibility on my show. So, I like everybody. I like them. I don't want to be negative, but with AEW's, 7 times out of 10, I've been positive about AEW. So they're good. WWE, I've only been positive about probably 3 out of 10 times. So it's but if they do, they'll go up.
It's the same way with me too. I always said when I started this venture that if there's one thing I gotta be is honest to my audience, whether people love me for it or whether they hate me for it. I gotta be honest with what I'm seeing and what my true opinion is, because you know what, if I can't be honest and I'm gonna sugarcoat it, everything, I might as well not even do it.
Yeah, exactly. And people know that. People can tell that. So, like, it's like they know we all know the fake, WWE suck up types. We've seen them, and you just go, what? They can't possibly like this. And they're grown adults. Casey is Raw said, I believe he started watching me from Don Tony and Kevin Castle. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Thanks to them for that, Casey is Raw. That's really good. And they're good. Kevin Castle and me talk on Twitter a lot, and he's a good guy.
Ah, cool. And Joe, I gotta tell you, I really appreciate the time. I know I've kept you longer than we originally anticipated, and
It's all good.
I'm sure you're really busy. You're probably planning on streaming tonight, I imagine.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my non-wrestling throwdown show, and I'm submitting. I've got all these submissions that I've been doing for audiobook auditions today, so I'll submit about 50, and I'll hear back from one. So we'll get one eventually, you know.
Hey, as long as you hear back from one, right? It's a start.
Yeah, exactly. You never know. You never know if the book is gonna make you 5 cents, or if it's gonna, or the book could catch fire on Amazon, and if it does, you get 70 cents every sale. That's they sell 50,000 books. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And oh, by the way, in closing, before I let you go, and I didn't tell you when we were off air. I forgot to tell you because I was focusing on getting this up. But
Yeah.
when I sign off of here, just hang on the line, and then we'll say our goodbyes after get off the air. But
Yeah.
back to football real quick because I know when you brought up Ryback, I had to go right into that because I was intrigued. But back to
Yeah.
football real quick. I just we were when we were both talking about our love for the Patriots, and I watch all of your shows when you talk about the Patriots, and the one thing is, I'm sure you've dealt with it. I can imagine how much you've dealt with, and I deal with it at times too when I bring it up. When I bring up I'm a Patriots fan or whatever, and you get all this hate, like people just hate on them so bad, and it drives me nuts when people got to go to, oh, they're cheaters and oh, they're this and that. No, they're just a great fucking team.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about that is, think about all the times they didn't win the Super Bowl. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Did they? If they were cheating, you would think that they would have won those ones. They came down to the wire, and the Patriots have done a few nefarious things that are that but every other team is kind of doing as well. But the Patriots are under a microscope that no one else is. So they've definitely bent the rules a couple times and done some questionable things, but it doesn't negate 6 Super Bowls. You know what I mean? No, and there's also what 3 or 4 losses in the Super Bowl. So it's just like at some point you got to acknowledge they're doing something more than cheating right. It's not like baseball where the Astros are, banging on something to figure out what the pitch is. The you can't be possibly getting. There's no clear cut way to cheat. The football thing was a farce. We all know that. Even the Colts, even most football fans know the deflate stuff was bullshit. The Spygate one is the most legitimate one. But a lot of other teams are doing it as well. The problem is when Mangini left the Patriots and went to the Jets, he's the one who blew the whistle on the Patriots. And the reason is because he knew exactly how the Patriots did it. But many other teams are doing it as well. And, that came out later. Obviously, people were doing it. And, the NFL got even stricter on it then. But the Patriots did do it. So they've been nefarious and weird. But it didn't win the game. They didn't win the games, all of them, because of that, for sure. The Oakland game in the snow, they had the tuck rule there. People were mad about that. But yeah, in the end, man, you got to acknowledge that mostly it really happened. It's like the New York Yankees and the Red Sox. The Yankees had a couple guys who had some anabolic steroids during some World Series and some playoff runs. The Red Sox, Ortiz was testing for something at one point, and to me, it's like, listen, everybody's trying to get something done and do something. I don't think either team won because of that. I think the Astros one is probably the worst of any of this,
I
but
agree.
because of their cheating situation, that's probably the worst of anything. Maybe Spygate's next to it or the same, but that's one. So there's 6 Super Bowls. So yeah, you just kind of got to go, whatever. People are gonna say that, but they have the rings and they're not taking them back. So whatever. Like,
And
I don't know. Like,
I'm standing by him, man. I remember when they won their last Super Bowl. I was watching your stream, and I think it was the interception that happened in the fourth quarter that did that turnaround for the Patriots and pretty much sealed the game up. And I remember when it happened, I believe you were in the basement. You jumped up out of your seat. You're like, yeah, and then you were jumping around, and then you're like, well, what do you fucking think about that? And I think you mentioned something like, did they cheat to do that? I think he said something along those lines, and I'm just sitting there smiling, and I'm applauding. I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, there was that one. Then there was the Seattle play. They basically threw the ball to what's his face, and then there was the Atlanta Falcons comeback at halftime. It's like, dude, watch those 3 Super Bowls, and then watch the Eagles loss that we had.
Yep.
It's like there was no cheating in those 4 games, and we lost and won. And so, but if I get the stigma a little bit, but they're good. Come on, they're good. Most people admit that. Most people who have a brain, you know what I mean? It's people online that are just coming by comments who say something like, oh, the cheaters or whatever. It's easy to say. It's funny. It's like Yankees suck. We say that in Boston all the time. Yankees suck. Fuck, Yankees suck. And I'm sure New Yorkers read that and go, what do you mean we suck? We have the most championships. If we suck, what do you do? So it's just a troll thing that fans say now. And, just like we say Yankees suck. I don't really think the Yankees suck. Obviously, they're the greatest baseball team ever and whatever. But like, I love the Red Sox and I'm from Boston, so whatever. I'm going to say Yankees suck, but you know what I mean? We know that they've got the most championships and that type of deal. So, just like, I think we don't like the Pittsburgh Steelers here either, but we're tied. I think we're tied with them for the Super Bowls now. So now we got to get one more.
Yeah. And I'm hoping it's coming this year. I'm hoping.
I hope Brady comes back. I hope he gets one more. But if he does, dude, that will be insane. If he gets another one, dude, I can't even believe that. I remember thinking that 5 was insane. I said, if he gets 5, that's nuts. And then when we ended up in the Super Bowl against the Rams the year before last, it was like, are you serious? Is Brady? Can we really get a 6th Super Bowl? And when you think about the Giants' losses, like, damn, they could have had 8 or 9 Super Bowls. Every Super Bowl came down to the wire. They were so close. That would have been, it would have been the most absurd thing ever if Brady had won 9 Super Bowls.
And I got to admit, that first Giants loss, when they were going for the undefeated record, that one still hurts me till this day.
Oh, yeah, dude. That was the worst. That was really bad. That was just the worst. Like, the whole season, we just running people over, and then, to get to that point, that was the worst. That was no doubt the worst of anything. It was just too bad. It's the biggest too bad ever. And now the Dolphins fans won't shut up because they're still like, we got the... They won like 40 years ago. They're still touting the thing they did 40 years ago.
Yeah, isn't it funny when they bring... what is it on Sports Center or on ESPN? They'll bring this guy on from the Dolphins, Mercury Morris, and when team's about to be undefeated or they think it's gonna happen, they'll bring him on and they'll always talk shit. It'll be like something like, I forgot what line he used. I really forgot what line he used.
He always starts setting it up like for if it happens, like, well, still it won't be anything like when we won because it was so much more difficult then, to do it. It's not even like that now, but it's funny. Like, yeah, the Dolphins, I don't know why, but the Dolphins, those guys, I don't know what it is, but yeah, they piss me off. They're annoying as hell. Like, I don't know why, but they just are. Like, they bother the hell out of me. And so I really would have loved if the Patriots had won that because then it would have been like, well, not only do we have all these Super Bowls and everything, but now we just, that's the best team ever right there if they'd done that.
Yeah.
So it's too bad they came really close. And it's funny that this season, at some point, people were talking about that again. They were like, oh, maybe we can. And it was like, yeah, we're playing garbage teams right now, so I don't know about that. But they got to, hopefully next year they fix the O-line and, they get somebody else Brady can throw to, and if they do that, maybe they'll be okay.
I think so. I think they'll be all right, because to me, there's no doubt in my mind that Brady's coming back. I just don't see him leaving. I really don't.
Yeah, I think I think he'll stay, but he could leave. I mean, I don't know. I could see something happening, but I hope he stays. But if he doesn't, I'll still cheer for him somewhere else.
Oh, absolutely. Me too.
That'd be kind of cool for him to win somewhere else too, and be like, "See, I'm pretty good. It's not just Belichick."
Yeah. And
But I've also seen, Matt Castle had the 11-5 season with Belichick, and Garoppolo played a couple of really good games with the Patriots without Brady. So, I've seen other quarterbacks do pretty good on this team in the system. So it'd be kind of cool for him to do well somewhere else. But yeah, I hope he doesn't. Hope he doesn't go. Or I hope he stays another year or two, and then maybe 1 year somewhere else. But I don't know how I feel. But yeah, if he retired Patriots, that'd be really cool. Just retire a Patriot. It's hard to believe that the guy's been on the Patriots since I was, 16 years old in high school.
Wow. Yeah, see, I was even younger. I was like 12. Wait, what year did Brady start? Was it 2000?
2001, I think.
All right, so 2001, I was 13.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, so I was like 15 or 16, and I was because September 11th was in September, and the football season obviously started right around that time.
Yeah.
So it was it was 2001, 2002.
Yeah, that's when I was 13 going on 14.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like before that, it was all losses, and the Patriots sucked, and we sucked, and everybody sucked really on in Boston it was everybody lost. You know what I mean? The Red Sox hadn't won, Bruins hadn't won, Celtics won when I was 2, and the Patriots had never won anything. So I just kind of felt like, wow, our sports teams suck. And then that year, everything turned around seemingly almost for everybody.
It did. That's what started the whole boom period, for all the titles in Boston. That was the start of it all.
Yeah, really cool.
And I see Casey as Ross said, good interview. I just subscribed. Thank you, Casey. I appreciate that. And
Great, you're gonna have big tits looking for you now.
And Joe, I gotta tell you, this has been unbelievable. Really, it's been a great time. I could talk to you about wrestling for hours, man. Honestly.
Yeah, man, I'll come back on again or something, I'll always talk about that and have you on my show, whatever. We'll do something in the future.
Yeah,
for sure.
That would be awesome. It's something else, when you could finally talk with, somebody that you looked up to that got you into this whole YouTube game, and finally have them on your show, the whole reason why you started in the first place. It's a really cool thing.
That is pretty cool. Like I know what it's like, I think, because it's like that's how it was. I've interviewed people recently where I know the same way. I'm like, oh, you don't understand like why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like Jim Ross or somebody like that. When I interviewed those type of people, it's like, yeah, I feel the same way. So I would talk to anybody anytime, because that's amazing to me. I can't even believe that, you know what I mean? Some people start shows because of my show, but I believe it now because so many people have told me that, or I've seen it happen, but a lot of people have told me that. So it's like, it's crazy. It's really cool. It's really, it's awesome. It's just cool, man. It's hard to say. It's hard to like, to believe it, kind of like, oh yeah, like someone's starting their show because they were influenced by what I was doing. But I get it because I'm influenced by what others did. So that's what we all do. We all influence each other, and that's just what happens. I mean, I got so many ideas from guys on YouTube that I watched. So it'd be crazy to be sitting down with someone that influenced me, because I'm like, you don't get how you changed me, what I'm doing. So I do get it. So it's really cool.
Yeah, and I appreciate it, Joe. I really do. I appreciate it. It's It's been a really great time, and I would love to have you back on sometime so we could talk some more. And this has just been awesome.
Yeah, man. Anytime. Email me with whatever, and I'll sometimes be able to do it, and sometimes I won't, but I'll be able to probably do it. So just email me and hit me up whenever. And if you see that Corderas thing, hit me up with that, and I'll probably post it later. And yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'll definitely. I'll send it out to you. I'll tweet it because I don't think we can DM on Twitter because you're not following me yet. So I'll have to tweet it to you. I'll tweet out the timestamps.
I'll find you on there. I'll find you on there and follow you.
Oh, cool. Thanks. Yeah, and then I'll DM it to you. I'll DM you the timestamps, and then I could also put a link to the video in the DM as well. Then you can find that, and I'll be watching to see you go at it with that again.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. I can't wait because I remember I was pissed.
Oh, big time, man! But it was an epic rant.
I think I found you here. There you are. I found you.
Sweet. Yeah, Joe, it's been
Okay.
What was that?
Yeah, all set. No, I just followed you. You're all good. All right. Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Hey, you're welcome. I appreciate you coming on and giving us some of your time. And Joe, just hang on the line while I sign off here with the rest of the audience, please. And I'll get back to you on the phone line in a second. It'll just take me... You'll hear me say goodnight to everybody, then I'll play my outro, so it'll be like probably 30 seconds before, I actually start talking to you after I get off air. But I'm here, so just hang out over there.
Okay.
All right, and everybody here, Joe, thank you once again, and look forward to talking to you again soon. Joe Cronin from The Joe Cronin Show, everybody. And, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching and listening to episode number 247 of the Beyond the Ring with Big T WWE News and Rumors podcast for today, Tuesday, March 10th, 2020. Actually, you know what? I see that I put the episode number up there. Let me double check real quick on my list because I just did my Elimination Chamber review the other night. I want to make sure that I got my numbers right. Let's see. Yeah, that was 246. Okay, so this is 247. Awesome. All right, and this is for Tuesday, March 10th, 2020. And guys, I will see you next time. And yes, there will be a next time for me on here on Beyond the Ring with Big T, hopefully with my Wrestling Road Stories podcast coming up. And don't forget us, and we won't forget you. And of course, guys, always remember, if you want one of the best, because of course I got another one of the best on here with me today, Joe Cronin. For all of your professional wrestling needs, always remember to think beyond the ring with Big T. And as always, guys, I'm your host, Big T, and I will see you at the matches. Take care. I love you all, and I'll talk to you soon. Good night, everybody.
Hello, this is EC3 of TNA Wrestling, and you are so very fortunate because you are watching Beyond the Ring with Big T.
This is the bad boy, Joey Janela, and you're watching Beyond the Ring with Big T.